it's been a few days since Chris Dorner got burned out or burned in, I guess, burned alive. But troubling stories were reported early on, and they're just not being discussed at all any longer. And it seems like there's just been no exploration of this by the press. And I think this is now becoming the story, actually, the press and the way that they're dealing with the sheriff's department, the San Bernardino Sheriff's Department, and how the sheriff's department is dealing with the public. As much as, the story of Chris Dorner himself, the alleged cop killer, and who got holed up in this cabin in California. So Max Blumenthal has been doing some remarkable reporting on this. He is a journalist and author. His most recent book, Republican Gomorrah, Inside the Movement That Shattered the Party. His website, of course, maxblumenthal.com. Max, welcome back to the program.
Great to be back on.
It is great to have you with us. So you were listening to the police scanner radios, and what you heard seemed to you to be fairly unambiguous about what was going on the night Chris Dorner died. What was it?
Yeah, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department has offered no evidence to contradict what appeared to have been a clear decision to burn Dorner alive in the cabin that he was hiding out in. What I heard, based on just listening to police scanners on an app on my iPhone, tweeting it out, and the audio has been, leaked, and it's on YouTube. Your listeners can listen to it. Is sheriff declaring, "Let's deploy the burners," referring to some form of pyrotechnic rounds. The burners have been deployed. We have a fire, meaning the fire was the objective. I listened to the deputies manage the fire carefully to ensure that it completely consumed the house, including the basement where they thought Dorner was hiding. Before the burners were deployed, I listened as they sent a reconnaissance vehicle to tear down the walls and peer inside the cabin, and they saw blood spatter on the wall, meaning that Dorner was possibly wounded in an earlier exchange of gunfire with the officers. And finally, CNN's Brian Todd reported during the standoff, this has been completely buried, that according to the U.S. Marshals, the suspect, Dorner, attempted to run out of the back of the cabin and was, quote-unquote, pushed back inside. I don't know what that means, but it means that it just supports what I believe was no attempt to take Dorner alive. And this is someone who made serious allegations against the LAPD. He's a former cop, and now he can't testify to those allegations. And the investigation into his firing is still open.
To what extent was the LAPD or federal law enforcement or any other law enforcement agencies involved in burning this house and this man inside it?
Well, it was the San Bernardino County sheriffs who spearheaded the operation to capture Dorner and wound up killing him. I think intentionally killing him.
Right. Did they run the whole show? I mean, did they have all these resources themselves?
They ran the whole show, but as for their resources, for example, they haven't specified what the burners are. We just know there's some kind of pyrotechnic rounds. They've said that they were hot tear gas,
right,
which I think is an attempt to get out of the fact that they may have used military hardware. The Defense Department has a program to supply local police departments with billions of dollars in surplus military hardware, and they've given small town departments amphibious tanks. So there's a reason why the San Bernardino County sheriffs are continuing to lie to the press about not intentionally starting the fire, and I think it has to do with covering up the militarization of policing and the use of military gear against civilians.
Well, that's interesting. The thing that has me scratching my head is why didn't the sheriff's department just say, we tried to take this guy alive just a few hours earlier, and he killed one of our officers and wounded another. And we're convinced that taking him alive is just really not an option. I mean, this is kind of the point where the sniper takes the guy out, sort of thing. And, whether we're going to take him out with a sniper or with fire, this is, we've just reached the point where this is the only option we have, and we're going to do it. If that's what happened, and it certainly kind of sounds like that, I mean, that would be the more kind of sober and rational way of saying it. From the police scanner, it sounded like there was also a certain amount of, hey, we're going to get this SOB, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
there is a sober and rational argument, I suppose, that could be made. Why wouldn't they make it? Or why haven't they?
That's a good question. And, you mentioned that there was kind of self-censorship on the part of the media. And the sheriff's deputy, the sheriff's department from San Bernardino County had actually asked the media to stop tweeting details about the standoff, and they complied. I watched them as one by one. They, tweeted out their compliance. The cameras mounted on media helicopters were asked to zoom out, and they zoomed out. So we didn't really know what was happening at the time. But this week, because of public pressure, because of public outrage over how this was handled, and how the overall manhunt for Dorner was handled, which included shooting innocent people, the press has had to kind of start asking real questions and actually do real journalism. And this has, led to Carter Evans, a reporter from CBS, grilling Sheriff John McMahon, who's the spokesman for the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, at a press conference about whether they did intentionally start the fire. And the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department is on the defensive now, and they're claiming we stand confident in our actions. But they won't say what their actions were. I don't know if there's an investigation underway, but they just won't fess up. They won't own up to the fact that they deliberately burned this cabin down with him inside. And there still are so many questions to answer, like how Dorner was pushed back inside.
Right.
What was the blood spatter? And what were the munitions? What were the burners? So all these questions need to be answered.
Well, and there's a certain amount of, dead men tell no tales. For example, with death row inmates, we spend a lot of time with the ones who are still alive and find a lot of them using DNA who are innocent. But, very little effort has gone to look at those who have already been executed, although there's fairly clear evidence that Rick Perry has executed at least one innocent man and George W. Bush at least one and probably two or three. But, once they're dead, it's like, okay, the interest goes away. And Chris Dorner's dead now, and as you say, he's not going to be able to testify about corruption in the Los Angeles Police Department. Is that investigation going to continue, do you think, Max?
The LAPD spokesman, Charlie Beck, just announced, I think an hour ago, that there will be an investigation, that the investigation will continue. And this is because, I think, of public pressure and public outrage over how this was handled and just over the general culture of impunity that the LAPD has represented for decades, in which Dorner outlined in his manifesto. I mean, I was on a radio show a few nights ago, Mark Thompson's show on Sirius, and a caller, a guy claiming to be current LAPD officer, called in and said, nothing that happened to Dorner surprised me. Nothing the police did surprise me, and I know people who agree with Dorner on the force, and personally, I don't agree with what he did, but I agree with what was in his manifesto. So even police officers, especially black cops, feel like there is some legitimacy to his claims. And so this is a bigger problem than Dorner. It's not a culture of impunity.
Remarkable. You can read all about it at maxblumenthal.com. Max, thanks for dropping by.
Thanks for having me.
15 minutes past the hour.